All right, let's start. So, welcome guys, welcome everyone to this next session in Dynamics 365 user group for India user group. Today we have a session on Power BI embedded in Dynamics 365 Finance and Operation, which will be delivered by Ashish Srivastava and myself briefly. And we also have Sunil Garg joining us from Microsoft today. Before we start with the session, quick summary about the group journey so far and where we are. So we launched this group in July this year. And in last couple of months, you can see we have done some sessions. We have done around 12 sessions so far. And as a part of those sessions, we also did a Power Platform Convergence series, which talked about all the platform convergence between Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations and the Power Platform. We also have covered few sessions on Business Central because this platform we are creating for the whole Dynamics 365 family of products. So if you are working in Dynamics 365 field service or customer engagement, feel free to reach out and use this platform to share your knowledge with the wider group. So you see group volunteers, so feel free to reach out to one of us if you want to know more about this group. And we have reached a milestone of 550 members on LinkedIn recently. So we would like to thank everyone who has joined the group and supporting us in this drive. So thank you everyone for joining us. Uh, a quick glimpse on the speaker board. So all the sessions which have been delivered, we have the speaker board available for you. So these are all the people who have come forward, shared their knowledge, helped us, mentored us to deliver these sessions so far. So a big applause to all of them and thanks a lot. It really helps to see, and it also encourages other people to come forward and share the knowledge. So keep supporting us and let's take this group to the next level and support each other. All right. With that, what I will do is I will quickly hand it over to Sunil for talking with us about something around what's coming ahead in platform convergence. And then I would also like to let other people who gave the sessions and who are available in this call, if they would like to open up, they can say something about the group activities so far. So Sunil, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajat. Let me quickly share my presentation here. Can you all see the presentation now? Okay, cool.
Yep.
So hi, good morning. Hi, good morning, everyone. Sunil Garg here. So Rajat gave me only 30 minutes, so I'm going to quickly speed through the content here. I have 27 slides, but yes, I'll need more than 2 minutes per slide, so which means I don't have enough time. So I'll quickly rush through. So quickly we'll cover, approach to convergence. I think some of you must have already seen, those slides, but I still wanted to spend a couple of minutes talking about that if there are new members joining today, just to level set and just to reiterate the same message. So I'll spend a couple of minutes there, and then we'll try to quickly understand what happened and what is happening in one admin, one developer, one user space from a convergence perspective. And we can have a short Q&A if we have time. So, what is convergence and what is the motivation? What are we trying to solve together? When we say convergence. So if we, take a step back, what we are trying to solve is not a new problem. I mean, this scenario set and these challenges has existed since the time we know, ERP, and since the time we know sales and marketing and all these different applications. And the reality is customers always had these multiple applications in their environment, and they always had the business processes that span these multiple applications. So that is not new, but the challenge and the problem always existed for how we can integrate these applications so that the business process also naturally spans these various applications, and users don't have to switch between applications. So the problem has always existed, and our ecosystem, all of you are ISVs, partners, and customers. Somehow they found a way to figure things out and customize and try to solve one way or the other. So what we are trying to do now is, it's an acknowledgement from Microsoft side that yes, that is a problem space. We should actually have something out of the box where it's much more easier for various applications, at least the Dynamics applications, to be talking to each other right off the bat, so that such cross-application business processes are much more aligned and integrated, right out of the box. So that is the reason why convergence is now a big focus from Microsoft perspective, and that is what is being tried to solve. Now, convergence is a very broad topic, and the scope of convergence is too broad. So what we are trying to also see is how can we express this convergence in one short line so that customers are able to understand that, so that anyone that we all talk to, it should just resonate right away. So which is why we have coined this one liner that says one admin, one user, and one developer, right? Because when we look at convergence from a persona perspective is truly this, which is when a user is working in finance and operation, and that same user is working in sales or marketing or field service, their experience should be the same, consistent experience. They should not really feel that they are working in one application versus the other. From their perspective, they could care hardly less about what application it is. It's about how can I get my job done fast and efficiently and in a much more delightful manner. So as long as we can make sure that the one user comes together from an experience standpoint, then convergence would have met its objective. Similarly, from an admin perspective, there are, theoretically, there are like 4 different admin variations here. One is the admin that manages LCS. One is the admin that manages similar things on PPAC. One is the admin that manages finance and operation application. And one is the admin that manages, data wars or, sales application and whatnot. Now, can we bring these administrative experiences also in one experience? Can we converge there? So that is where one admin comes into play. And then last but not the least, our developer community, our developer ecosystem also needs to have the same tool set, for example, or consistent tool set when they are developing applications for, say, finance and operation versus sales or marketing. It shouldn't be, different tool sets for each of the application. Instead, if a finance and operation developer is used to working in Visual Studio IDE, then why not allow or enable our developer community to also work in the same environment for doing plugins for Dataverse, for example, because that is where the convergence is happening. So which is why one admin, one user, and one developer truly captures the essence of convergence, and that is why we are sharing that message with all of you. Now, approach to convergence, again, I'll quickly repeat. Be opportunistic, don't rewrite, right? And these are the principles for Microsoft, for us, and also for everyone that we talk to as a guidance, which is the ask is not to go and rewrite what has been done, because that is the most inefficient way of adding value to customers. But let us be very mindful and let us be very deliberate with the knowledge that we have, the knowledge that we are learning every day as to what is happening in convergence. What is virtual entities? When should we use it? What is dual write? When should we use it? Etc. etc. And then any new development that we do, that should be using the latest tools and technologies so that we are aligned with the direction, with the roadmap. Similarly, this cannot happen in one wave or two wave or one release. This will be a multi-year journey. So it will be a crawl, walk, and run approach. So that is kind of setting the expectation for us internally and also with all of us that you will see an incremental progress as opposed to one big bang saying that, hey, now we are done with convergence. The third bullet is basically it's kind of related to the previous topic or previous point, which is new work should align to the roadmap and to the direction, as opposed to going and rewriting what has been done already. And last but not the least, I mean, X++ investments will continue the way it has been going on. So if there are any concerns from that perspective, that is something we wanted to just address right at the outset. And then I'll quickly hurry up here. This is a technological slice on convergence, right? I mean, in the previous slide, we talked about what convergence means from a persona perspective. That was a scenario-centric approach, a user-centric approach. Here, it is a technical slice, meaning convergence will happen in every slice of the technology stack in Power Platform and also in finance and operations. So data and events, as you are probably aware, things are happening and things will continue to happen in this space from an integrations perspective for how we can converge more naturally out of the box. Similarly, we talked about admin scenarios. That is where the security, authentication, and authorization comes into play. There will be opportunities to converge on that front as well. Similarly, storage. I'll talk about some of the scenarios we are working on that front. So I'll quickly jump to the last two slides, which is Power Apps, Admin Center, LCS, PPAC, extensibility. All of these areas will have scenarios where we will be converging based on the use cases and opportunities. So let's quickly understand what has, what is going on in one admin space. Now, as we know, when customers deploy environments, I mean, we really want an experience where it is a one-click deployment, and then behind the scene, a converged environment is what gets deployed. So this is what has been released earlier this year in LCS, if you remember. There is Power Platform integration that is enabled, and that actually gets us the environment deployed together for FNO and Dataverse, as opposed to two different clicks and two different experiences. Now, what this gets us is basically off the bat, the required solutions, the required glue is already established on the platform so that customers don't have to go and install virtual entity solutions separately versus dual write solutions separately. Instead, everything is right there and everything is already linked and plumbed for us to start using it. Now, I'll quickly skip this in the interest of time. This is an interesting slide. So, and please take all these timelines with a grain of salt. This is our internal planning slide. We are just sharing from a transparency perspective. I mean, the plan is somewhere, after 2023, somewhere between 2023 and 2024 is when, we expect LCS to be kind of deprecated and all the functionality, should be and will be in PPAC, and PPAC becomes the admin center, if you will, for finance and operations as well. And then after some time, LCS will slowly wean out. So that is exactly. So that is the key message out of this slide. So please take some time to kind of digest this. And this is again, almost a year and a half away. And this is all subjected to what progress and how much progress we are able to make in moving functionality from LCS to PPAC. And if that gets delayed, then this gets delayed as well. But in principle, it should be expected that we will be looking at a time where PPAC becomes the admin center for finance and operation as well, and LCS will slowly start taking a backseat. Now let's quickly jump into one developer. Now, from a one developer perspective, as we mentioned in the initial slides, the idea is let's have a consistent tool set. Let's converge on the tool set. And let's also make it easy for developers to get an environment where they can develop on a converged platform, right? Today, a developer gets a FNO environment separately. A developer gets a Dataverse environment separately. They go through like a 20-step process that we have published to kind of link these two environments and then do the development and somehow generate the code packages for FNO separately, from Dataverse separately, then go and deploy them separately. There's a lot of hoops our developers have to jump today to make this work. So the idea is we want to rethink of how a developer environment looks like for a converged platform. And I'll quickly jump to, I mean, this is today's architecture, as we all know, right? But the future architecture that the work has already started is basically have a cloud environment. I mean, if you remember, and maybe all of you know that the developer environment for Dataverse is a cloud environment, a true cloud environment. Whereas for FNO, we have VM-based, developer environments. So the idea is let's have a true cloud developer environment, just like a sandbox, for example, right? And the sandbox today is pre-connected using the Power Platform integration. Well, the same thing should apply to a developer environment also, where the developer can say, hey, I want a Power Platform integration enabled dev environment. And then behind the scene, the environments get deployed just like sandbox. There's no difference except for some additional tooling that is available to enable developments, right? So that is the idea here, and the work has started. So we should expect something to share with all of you in the first quarter of next year, or at least sometime in April, May timeframe, where we would want all your help to come and help us validate and work with us through a preview program and whatnot. So stay tuned for that information. So now from a one user perspective, things that has been recently shipped and generally made available. I mean, as you all know, last year, virtual entities were made available for finance and operations. In July, we increased the number of legal entities that can be supported in dual write from 50 to 250. And then in October, a couple of months ago, business events and card events or data events for finance and operations through Dataverse was made generally available. So this now opens up the doors where Dataverse connector for Power Automate and Logic apps will be available for finance and operations scenarios as well, which means sometime next year, we should expect finance and operations connector to be deprecated, right? I mean, we will announce the deprecation of finance and operations connector as well. Once we make sure that functionally the Dataverse connector is on par with finance and operations scenarios, and then we have converged on the connector ecosystem from that perspective, right? And then this also enables extensibility using C# plugins on Dataverse for finance and operations, because now you will be able to execute business logic when something happens in finance and operation, either via business events or data events, and the logic can execute on Dataverse, right? So this is additional tooling that is now available for our developers to have a choice as to how should I do my extensions. So this is one step closer to where we want to be. Now, here is a quick demo. I will come back to the demo if we have time, but for now, let me quickly skip. So what is next in one user from a Dataverse platform perspective? So the first scenario is a very important scenario, and we will need all your help, right? But not right now. Maybe in 3 to 4 months' time, I will reach out and we will have conversations more in this. But what we are working on is today, when a developer wants to write a business logic that actually spans both the platform. Like, for example, if I start a transaction in X++, and then I also want to go and do some write operations in sales application in Dataverse, and then I want to come back into X++, and then I want to continue the transaction, and then commit the transaction, then if the transaction is successful, it should commit on both sides. But if the transaction fails, it should roll back on both sides so that it truly behaves like one platform, right? And there is no data inconsistency problem. The developers don't have to think if I'm writing this logic for FNO or for Dataverse, and if I'm doing it for both, how do I manage this myself? I mean, it is not possible for a developer to manage this in an efficient manner, right? So basically what we are looking at is to enable one transaction on one platform, because if we don't have one transaction, then we cannot truly say that the platforms have converged, because then the platform are actually behaving in two different ways. Instead, it has to be like a truly one platform. So what a little bit more technical details here, just to enable some food for thought, as we conclude the session. So what we are looking at is to converge the databases, right? So today we have finance and operation database, which is AXDB in a separate, server, a separate, Azure SQL. And then we have our sales and marketing database sitting somewhere else in a physically different Azure SQL. So the idea is we want to bring finance and operation into the same database physically, so that the finance and operation schema sits in the same database alongside with sales, field service, marketing, and all of the Dataverse schema. What that will allow us to do is to enable one transaction using native SQL capability itself, so that we don't have to do anything different. We don't have to write some additional code to make it work, but we can just use the native SQL capability itself. Now, it is easier said than done. It is one of the hardest problems that we have started to look into. It will take time, and we will need all the help from you. So it is a request to start thinking about it, and we will be having a lot of discussion in this topic, and we will be asking for a lot of help for you to help us validate. So that is one of the major scenarios that we are working on. And the second key scenario is, now that business events are available in Dataverse, it will be available from finance and operations, from sales, from marketing, from field service, and even third-party external applications, right? Because business events and CUT events are available for external applications also. So which means Salesforce, SAP, Oracle, all these external applications can send their events to Dataverse now. So it puts us in a very unique opportunity where we can now derive insights into a business process, right? We can now go and give this information to our customers that, look, the opportunity was confirmed 3 days ago, and the sales quotation is getting created like 10 days later, right? So which means the turnaround time for an organization to create a sales quotation from the time the opportunity was closed is almost 2 weeks or 3 business weeks. Is that efficient enough, or is that not good? We need to derive these insights and start giving it and surfacing it for our customers. So similarly, so when we think about this, it's actually a very strong concept, especially when we think about doing this across a business process that spans multiple applications, right? Whether it is first-party applications or whether it is first-party plus third-party, because we have those events now, we can know when was the opportunity created, when was the opportunity confirmed, when was the sales order created, when was the sales order picked, packed, shipped, when was the invoice posted, when was the payment done, right? So we can derive a ton of insights into a business process to understand the productivity metrics, to understand the performance metrics of an organization. And we can enable a lot more capability using this, right? So that is the second scenario. And again, we will need a lot of help. We are making faster progress on this scenario than the previous scenario because of the nature of complexity. So we may want your help sooner on the second scenario to help us kind of keep us on the track from a design perspective, and also help us validate and share your scenarios. So please ping me offline, and we'll be happy to connect and we can take this forward. Now, from a Power Apps perspective, from a very high level, I know I have 4 minutes, so I'll try to quickly cover. What we are, I'll actually cover this slide. This slide is important. So what we are doing is, right now, it is possible to pin UCI apps in finance and operation. That functionality is available. It is being refined and tweaked, but we can do that today. The second thing that we want to do, and we are working on, and sometime next year this will be available, is the reverse, which is we should be able to pin X++ forms into UCI, so that we can enable such experiences sooner than later. And then the third one is, the PCF controls that are available for Power Platform, those PCF controls should also be available for finance and operations. So that one time we invest in a PCF control and it can be used everywhere, right? And then as we increase the usage of PCF controls in finance and operation UI will naturally come closer and closer to Power Platform. So it's a very natural progression and nothing artificial that we have to do. So that is at a very high level that we are working on from a Power Apps perspective. And from a dual write standpoint, I'll quickly skip this. I think we all know about dual write. This is the important slide. Most of the business processes and entities that were planned has been delivered from a dual write perspective. There are last few entities that have been worked on, which is primarily from an activities perspective. So once that, that will be also completed based on the plan that we have here. So that is the work that is being done in dual write, in addition to all the fundamentals work, which is performance and stability and reliability. That is the continuous investments from our perspective. So those are the areas that we are working on dual write. So I am happy that I was able to cover in 28 minutes or 25 minutes. I got actually 5 minutes late from Rachit, so I still have 2 minutes. So I'll open up for any questions if there are.
Any questions, guys? Anyone has any question? I think, Sunil, what you have shown is really, as you said, food for thought. It will keep us awake at night to think about what's going to happen. And we are there to help and test drive and take this forward. So let us know how the community can help in bringing these features to GA, and happy to see. If you want to show us some demo, please go ahead. We will continue with the Power BI session after that.
I'll play this. I'll play this. And then I have an ask, which I will talk about after this.
Sorry, it's not playing, Sunil.
Can you all hear?
No, we can't hear.
Can anyone hear?
We can hear you talking, but not the video.
Okay. Okay. So I'm not sure what is happening. So let us not spend time on that. But
sorry, maybe if somebody just play on the button, if you are seeing that video, if you click on play, maybe you can hear it.
That works. Yeah, maybe we all can click at the same time. Let's spend 3 minutes, look at the demo, and then we can come back.
So I'm able to play it. I'm not sure why, but I'm able to play this.
Okay, so let's all play. On local, let's all play that. Is the demo complete now for all?
Almost. Just
Okay.
30 more seconds. Yeah.
I'll wait.
I think they've nearly finished.
Yeah, so it is finished actually.
Finished
Okay.
for all.
Okay. Okay. So that was a quick, a short demo to kind of showcase what is available now and how these different technologies, right from Power Portals to Power Apps to virtual entities and business events and CUD events and Power Automate and Teams, every in singular technology is coming together to enable this end-to-end scenario. And that's the convergence that we are looking at. So the last ask I had is, and I was kind of brainstorming with Rachit as well. We are thinking of doing a hackathon for platform convergence. And at a very high level, what this will mean is, we will request for participation where, ISVs, partners, and customers can basically participate and build apps. It can be a 1 week of hackathon where, we build apps and we then showcase the apps. And then, we can have, if the first one is successful, then we can have this as a regular rhythm. So that way, and this will be based on the technologies that are GA, right? So this is different from the preview workshop that we do because the objectives are different. So here, the objective will be to educate, learn, create awareness, and at the same time, spend time to do hands-on and showcase the applications that everyone is building. Is that a good idea? Will there be participation? What do you think the community will react?
Great idea.
I mean,
Okay. Okay. So, we haven't figured out the logistics yet and, all the mechanics for doing this, but we can certainly use help. If you guys have any ideas for, how we can make it effective, right? And I'll be happy to discuss offline as well with any of you that is interested to kind of partner with us and kind of help us in this process as well. So send me messages offline if you're interested. Then we can I can invite you to our meetings where we discuss this, and you can actually help us, advise and whatnot. So with that, Rachit, I'll hand off to you, and thanks all. It was great talking to you all again. And back to you, Rachit.
thanks, Sunil. It was great listening to you as always. A lot of insights which you have shared, and I'm excited about next year. All these features becoming GA and how we can help to bring them to GA is something definitely will be an interesting journey. So if people who wants to participate, please feel free to reach out to Sunil or myself. I can share some more links. We can create some forms where people can express their interest in participation in hackathon, and maybe we can use that to drive it forward. But thanks a lot, Sunil. I'll just share my screen, and if we have any more speakers from this speaker board present in the meeting and who would like to unmute and share something before we move forward, that would be great. All right, so okay, I'll move forward. So today what we are discussing is we are discussing about Power BI embedded in Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations, and the session will be presented by Ashish Srivastav and myself. So just a quick introduction about the speakers. Ashish, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Rachit. So myself, Ashish Srivastav, I'm right now working for one of the customer, like Hitachi Construction and Machinery, as a technical consultant. So I've been working in Dynamics since 2005. So it's been like 16 years. So I started with Xapta 3.0 and then worked on the various Dynamics versions. So I have witnessed yeah, uh, the emergence of this Dynamics thing. So it has evolved a lot. Like it used to be middle level companies product, but now like this Dynamics can be used for very large enterprises. So like very proud to be part of the Microsoft Dynamics. Yes, I think that's it from my side. Over to you, Rachit.
Thank you, Ashish. Guys, myself, Rachit, I've been working in the field of Dynamics 365 since 2005, same as Ashish. Started with Xapta 3.0 as a developer, and currently I'm working with PwC based in Melbourne. So let's quickly come to the agenda for today. So what we will discuss is we will discuss some key concepts of Power BI Embedded. We will see a process of how to create a new Power BI Embedded report in finance and operations. Ashish will be talking about a recent case study where he developed a very powerful and useful Power BI report, and he will share his lessons learned during that journey, and we will then take any questions. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat window, and please note that these views are expressed by the speakers based on their experience. It does not represent the view of their employers or Microsoft. And as this session is recorded, so be mindful that your name may appear during the recording. All right, let's continue. So I'll talk through the key concepts and then I'll hand it over to Ashish for the demo. So a few things about Power BI Embedded. What is Power BI Embedded and how is it different to the normal Power BI flavor? So what is it? So the key difference between Power BI Embedded and the normal Power BI report is that this flavor of Power BI reports can be embedded in your business applications, which means users don't have to change their browser or switch to a different dashboard to view the report, as well as it gives you the drill down capabilities to go to the actual form within the application from the Power BI report. So imagine a scenario: you are looking in finance and operation, you are on a workspace looking at a Power BI report, you click on a particular section and it takes you to the detail page within finance and operation of the transactions from which that value came on the Power BI report. So these type of scenarios are enabled by Power BI Embedded. What also it does is it helps you to secure this data by using the finance and operations security framework, and that is how you get an additional layer of security on these Power BI reports which are coming out of Power BI Embedded experience. Now some key concepts. There are a few terms which you will hear when you will talk about Power BI. So things like entity store, Byod, and what is the difference between entity store and Byod. We will also talk about star schema and difference between DAX and query. So first of all, why these tools were created? The reason is because Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations is a SaaS-based application. The database is SQL Azure as of today. It's in cloud and we don't have direct connectivity to this database. So there was a need for customers to get access to this data for analytics purposes. And for those purposes, these different frameworks were created. So first I'll talk about entity store. So entity store is also known as AXDW by technical people. So when you install finance and operations and when you log into your developer machine and you open SQL Server, you will see there is a database named as AXDW. So the business name is entity store. What this does is it actually stores the aggregated data of your current system. What this means is it's like a half-cooked data which can be sent to Power BI. It stores your aggregate measurements. It stores your summarized information of the transactions. So this entity store, think of it I'm not going too deep, but think of it as a half-cooked database which can be used by Power BI reports directly. So you don't have to do the calculations and get the summarized value from the Dynamics database outside of Dynamics. So AXDB stores all the aggregated data. It's optimized for reporting purposes. Now these aggregate measures are, you will see that we are highlighting that these are star schema. So we will talk about what is a star schema. And that is the whole purpose of having AXDW. The way data gets populated into these in this database is via batch processes, which you have to configure in finance and operations. There are docs link which we will be sharing in references towards the end. What is BYOD? BYOD is a SQL database which sits in your own subscription where you can export data from data entities. So for finance and operation, data entities is like a normalized view of your data. So in reality, your data is sitting in multiple tables, but with the help of a data entity, you can have a flat view of your data. And then you can export that flat view of the data to an external SQL Azure database, which is called as bring your own database in finance and operation. So the way to do is that you have to configure a data source connection and you have to enable this as a destination for your data export projects. So what this allows you to do is you can export the data of your data entities to a SQL Server database, which is in cloud. And from that database, you can build your Power BI queries on top of it. The key thing which you have to be mindful while configuring this connection is that the username which you use to configure the connection should have create and write permissions in that database, because generally when you give a connection string and you click validate, it only tests the connectivity. But when you actually start sending out data, it might fail because the user is not having right permission. So that's one of the key things you should take care when you are configuring BYOD. So the difference between BYOD and entity store is that BYOD is having the data of your data entities, which is a normalized view of your data, while entity store is having the view of the data which is optimized for reporting purposes. So BYOD can provide you capabilities to mash up your data with external data sources, while the entity store data is purely made of data which is generated by finance and operations. So these are few key differences between BYOD and entity store. These concepts they are quite deep. If we can have like dedicated session on them, but in this session our objective is to tell you that these are different ways to get access to finance and operations data so that you can build Power BI dashboards on top of them. Now, the latest feature which has been recently generally made available, it's hot off the press, that you can export your finance and operations data in data lake. What this means is that you have to create your own Azure data lake, which is of type Gen 2 storage in your subscription. And then you can install this add-in from LCS. You can do configurations in Dynamics Finance and Operation to select the tables and entities which you want to export. And through this data pipelines, the data is sent to data lake. From data lake, you can write your own Apache Spark things, or you can use Azure Synapse to build some more analytics on top of that. And then you can consume it in Power BI. So these are the links we have shared here, which you can use to get access to finance and operations data to build your Power BI dashboards. We will quickly look at few key concepts when you go towards Power BI world, which are around DAX and mQuery, because these terms are used quite frequently. And we just want to highlight the key difference between them. So DAX is an expression language. It helps you to create formulas and do calculations on the data which you have received in Power BI. While the Power Query, the mQuery, the formula language is more about the transformation layer. So if you have to transform your data, merge data from multiple data sets, that is where the mQuery comes into picture. Ashish, do you want to add anything here on DAX and mQuery?
Yeah, so So the Power Query actually generally used for the cleansing of data, like when before you can use that data in the report. So you can do the way actually we do the extract ETL job in the. So this Power Query is very powerful that it's used even in the Excel also. You can with the Excel tool also you can do the extract, transform, and load. So it's basically used for the cleansing of data and the transformation of data. And the DAX query is basically the calculation, like when we load the data, and on top of that we want to do some calculation, so that we do it with the DAX query. So I will show all of this when I show the example in my demo. So that I will show the difference. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Ashish. Just one last thing before I hand it over to Ashish for further demo. We'll quickly talk about star schema. So you might have seen in the entity store, there was a line that it's based on a star schema model. So if you look in this diagram, you can see a star being generated. And there are two main things. One is a fact and one is a dimension. So the key concept is to understand the meaning of dimension and fact and what are the benefits of it. So consider DIM as your master data. So dimensions could be your store name, it could be your salesperson name, it could be your employee ID, it could be your customer account. And fact is more like a transactional data, that what has happened in relation to that particular dimension. So if we talk, a very common example of Power BI reporting is sales happening in a region. So every sales has multiple things, like who was the sales representative, in which store that sales was made, who was the customer, was which product was sold. So all these things become your dimensions, and the actual transaction becomes fact. So and each of these tables have foreign keys and natural keys tied to them, through which these tables are joined. So these are like under the hood relations between these tables. And when you put your whole structure, it becomes a star when you join them. And that's why the name star schema evolved. The benefit of having a star schema is that your reporting is neat, your design is clean, and it can scale up as your volume increases. So if you don't have a very good relational database, you may still work fine with few lower volumes of data. But as the volume of the data grows, if you have star schema relation in place, your performance will not be impacted. So it's very important to consider when you start modeling your tables for any analytics consumption. So with that, I will hand it over to Ashish now. The floor is all yours, mate. Go for it.
Oh, thank you, Ruchit. Thanks a lot. Yeah. So in today's session, actually, although Rachit has already covered the concept, but I will still explain it, like while going through my demo. So I will explain this concept. So Rachit just explained the star schema. So in creating the Power BI embedded report, the data modeling is the very important piece, how we model the data. And for that, actually, we need so we generally use the star schema, which is very powerful and tool to do the data modeling. And so what is the star schema? Star schema, actually, we have the two type of tables. One is the fact table and one is the dimension table. So fact table is the table actually, which is the flag table. We have all the transaction, okay, like the sales orders lines. So we have like sales line table, which is the fact table, which has all the lines, which and all the transactions. Okay, and what is the dimension table and how we want to measure the data in the fact table? That is the dimension table. So in sales order, we have the customer, we have the item group, we have like a lot of financial dimensions like department, cost center, and all. So if you want to measure the data based on these dimensions, so that is we use the dimension table. Okay, so
Sorry, are you sharing your screen, Ashish? Will you be sharing your screen?
Oh, I'm sharing. Oh, sorry. I
Thanks.
thought I'm sharing. Okay, so just a minute. Okay. Oh, I need to use my PowerPoint slide. Okay. Okay. Sorry. Okay, this is. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So, so that's the star schema. So how it looks like, I just want to give one, show one example, which is the standard Dynamics AX embedded report in Dynamics, like the actual versus budget. So if you open that report, so this is the PBIX file, and how you get the PBIX file from the Dynamics is like, because all the PBIX file you can get it from Dynamics. So where it is stored basically is if you go and go to our folder, which is a service, okay, and then package local directory, and whatever the models you the package we have. So like suppose I'm giving the example that my custom model, so which I created. So and then if you go to the resources, sorry, in the model, and then if you go to the AX resource, and here this is the resource actually, and then if you go to the resource content and the Power BI, here actually you have the Power BI PBIX file. Okay, so you can get the PBIX file from the this AOS service folder, and then you can actually open it and check the data modeling. Okay, so this one, like this is in this example that we have the star schema. So here in the star schema, the good thing is like how the relation is there. So it's generally one-to-many relationship. Okay, so there are many records in the fact table, and is one record in the dimension table. That's how the relation is developed in the star schema. So that's why we call it star, because the fact table in the central, and then we have the dimension in the all different angles. So that's why we call it a star schema. So it's one-to-many relationship between the fact and the dimension table. Okay, so this is star schema. So another thing that before, because I go to my case study, like so in our company actually we recently started using the Power BI report. Okay, so the first thing when we developed, that was because we didn't have experience on building the Power BI report. So the first thing what we did actually, we built the Power BI report using the Byod. So basically we created some data entities inside the Dynamics, and then using our data data management, actually we exported the data to external database, that is also like Azure SQL database. So we exported the data, and using the Power BI desktop, we connected that database, and then we build a report. Okay, and since this report we built on the external external database, so we can't we cannot use that report inside the Dynamics workspace. So what we did actually, we use this report in the Power BI service. So reports in Dynamics can be viewed in two different places. Like, so I'm just sharing the Power BI service. So this is called Power BI service. Okay. So basically we gave the users access in this Power BI service, and the user could see the report in the Power BI service. So this is how we built our first report. So the problem with this approach was like because if you want to use the report with the Power BI service, you need the license. So so we gave this report access to selected users, like selected executives only, so they can access the BI report. So we procured the license for them, and then we gave the access in the Power BI service. So okay, so here actually we gave them access, and they could go and run the report. So but what's the benefit of using this Power BI service over the entity stories? Like if you want to like get the data from the multiple sources, like you get the data from Dynamics, you get the data from the Salesforce, you get the data from some other legacy system, okay, and then you want to analyze the data. So this is the best place you can do the data analytics. So you have to build the report on the Power BI service. Okay, so that's actually that's the benefit of using the BYOD. In the BYOD, you can get the data from the multiple places, and then you can build a report, and that report you can view through Power BI service. Okay, so that was the first thing we developed. Okay, so when we got the second report, so because that report actually we couldn't give access to the whole organization, like we had like 1,500 users, so we couldn't give it to all of them the access of those reports. So what we found, so the second report that we decided that we will build inside the Dynamics using the embedded Power BI. Okay, so the benefit of using the embedded Power BI is inside the Dynamics. So first, data will not go outside the Dynamics, like it's the inside. And then this embedded Power BI, you can use the security of the Dynamics to secure that report. Okay, so that you can give all the roles, privilege, duties, whatever we have to secure that report and give the proper access, whom you want to give the access to that report. So that's the beauty of the embedded report, and this is free. Like it doesn't require license because Microsoft already packaged it inside the Dynamics. So this is really good tool that Microsoft given to Dynamics, so that we can build a Power BI and then we can do analytics inside the Dynamics. So that's how actually, and the challenge was like the embedded Power BI was not very popular, and like not many companies use the embedded Power BI. So generally companies use the Power BI service because it's like easy and they can get analyze the data from the multiple sources. So so it actually and whenever we were hitting the roadblock in this embedded Power BI, getting the information was very difficult, and at this moment actually Microsoft support helped us. Like, so we worked very closely with the Microsoft support for the issues, and they helped us and they guided us in this building this embedded Power BI report. So so that's how we started building this embedded Power BI report. So what was so there were a lot of learnings because we didn't have any experience of building this embedded Power BI. So what we did actually, first thing I did, like I just went on Google and downloaded the Power BI desktop, and then I downloaded the latest version of Power BI desktop. Okay, so when you develop the report on the latest version of Power BI desktop, it doesn't work in the embedded Power BI. So that was the first mistake I did. Okay, so then Microsoft suggested, okay, that because the embedded Power BI works only on the Power BI version, which is before August 2020. So if I show in my tab box, like I have the Power BI desktop. So if how you know that what's the version we have? So if we go and you click on About, so you can see this my version is somebody should this is August 2020. So I'm using August 2020. So if you use any version before that, that's also fine, that you can use it and you can build the report and you can deploy it and it works fine in the Dynamics embedded Power BI. So that was the first thing mistake I did. Okay, so second thing, like because I was new, so what I thought that okay, like I got the data from Dynamics. So and then what I did actually, I just added a custom table. So let me show one example of the custom table. So this is my first report I built. So I added one custom table. So custom table is like you can simply go and write the query and automatically it will build one table for you, and that table you can view it here in the Power BI desktop. Okay. So the problem with custom table is like it uses sorry. Yeah, so you can see the storage mode is import. So but for embedded Power BI, it only supports direct query. So when you create a custom table, so which is import storage mode, then it will not work in the embedded Power BI. So you'll have to use the direct query. So you can see this the second table, that is the storage mode is direct query. So it's only supports that direct query storage mode. Okay, so this is the second problem I faced while building the report. Okay, so now actually I will go to my case study. So so our organization, actually we were facing some problem with analyzing the delivery, like when we deliver the item, like how many times we are delivering on time and how many times we are delaying the delivery. So we didn't have any proper report inside Dynamics to analyze that data. And so we built some SSIS report, but that was not something because they wanted to analyze the data on the multiple measures. Like they wanted to analyze the data for particular customers and wanted to see the progress by months and all. So that was not possible with the SSIS report. So that we decided, okay, that we should build the Power BI report. And this is very, very important report in most of the supply chain companies, like to know that how efficient your supply chain to deliver the goods. So that's why we built this the DIFOT report. So DIFOT means that is delivery in full on time. So how many times we deliver the goods within the time limit and the full quantity we delivered. That means like suppose we have the sales order. So and how we compare it. So in the sales order, we have the shipping date requested. So that the requested shipping date that was actually provided by the customer, that they want this item to be delivered on by certain this date. Okay. So and then in Dynamics, when you ship it, then you have the delivery date. So you compare the data, the delivery date with the shipping date requested. Okay. And then you check what you check the quantity. So how many quantity the customer ordered and how many quantities you are delivering. So combination of these two is called DIFOT, the delivery in full on time. So if you have delivered all the ordered quantity before the shipping date requested, that means your DIFOT is met. Like you met the DIFOT. Okay. So that was the goal. Okay. So that was the DIFOT. Okay. Okay. So and how we wanted to achieve this DIFOT. So we wanted to achieve check the DIFOT by order line, and by quantity. So all the three factors we wanted to check. Okay. So by order means like during like this period, like suppose in the period of 3 months, last 3 months. Okay. So how many orders we delivered on time. Okay. So that's like suppose we got 1,000 orders. Okay. Out of 1,000 orders, we could deliver like 900 orders on time. So how we know that 900 orders? So 900 orders means for all the 900 orders, for all the lines, okay, all the lines were delivered with all the quantity within the time limit, then the these 900 orders is default. The default is met for those 900 orders. Okay. And then we wanted to know by order line. So suppose in that 3 months period, we had 900 orders, sorry, 1,000 orders, but we had like 10,000 lines. For each order, we had 10 lines. Okay, so we had 10,000 lines in that last 3 months. Out of 10,000 lines, how many lines we delivered in full? So suppose we delivered like 9,000 line or 9,500. So the default is 95%. So the same thing by quantity. So we wanted to know by quantity, like in last 3 months, we got the order for like 100,000 quantity, and we delivered like 95,000 quantity on time. So that's 95,000. 95% is the default for that. So that was the goal to achieve with the default. Okay. So, and what impacts actually default? Like, like why the companies are not able to deliver the quantity on time? So there can be multiple reasons like why the companies cannot deliver in time. So that the one thing is the company doesn't have sufficient stock because their planning is not good enough, so they or they don't have enough storage facility, so they couldn't have that much inventory to deliver to supply to the to meet the requirement of the customer. Okay, so then we can never met the default. So that's the reasons the companies doesn't make. And sometimes like you have like a lot of problems like in the system or somewhere like and then delivery is stuck for some days and you are not able to deliver on time. So that also is, in some cases it happens. And then some cases like we have the disorganized warehouses, we don't have proper warehousing process and we are not able to deliver the item on time. So these are the major reasons actually when it fails. Those reasons we wanted to analyze through our default report. Okay. So so how we build this embedded Power BI report? Okay, so to build the embedded Power BI report, so we first create the dimensions, like how you want to measure the reports, like you want to measure the report by customer. So the customer is a dimension. You want to measure the report by date range. So date is another dimension. If you want to measure the report by some financial dimensions like cost center department or something, so that is another dimension. So, and first you create a dimension that is aggregate dimension, and then we create aggregate measurement. So we create the aggregate measurement, okay, and then we inside the aggregate measurement we use the aggregate dimension, okay. So and aggregate measurement, what are the aggregate measurement? What different type of aggregate measurements we have? So we have two different types of aggregate measure. One is in memory real time, and another one is the staged entity store. So initially Microsoft actually started with the in-memory real-time aggregate measurement, and then later on they added the staged entity store. So what is the in-memory real-time? So in-memory real-time, if you want to get some real-time data, so then generally we use it because this is pretty fast. So we use this in-memory real-time aggregate measurement. So but sometimes actually our data is huge, like we have a lot of data, we have a lot of calculation. So so in that case, actually the preferred way is to use the staged aggregate measurement. So now I think with what I should do, I will just go through the environment, my dev box. This is my dev box, and I will show you like what I meant by aggregate measurement. So here we have this cube. So this is actually aggregate measurement. Okay, that here we have the attributes, and then I created one measure inside the aggregate measurement, and this is the dimension. So we have the dimension. Okay, so if you see this aggregate measurement, so I am using the uses is staged entity store, because I have like very large amount of data that I'm analyzing. So so the best approach to use is the staged entity store. So if you go and check most of these Microsoft standard cubes, you will see that they use, because they are using like a lot of huge data, so they are using the staged entity store. But some of the aggregate measurement they use in memory. So like I have the example. So this is the ledger activity measure. This is also standard dynamics aggregate measure, and you can see the here uses is in memory real time. So here we are using in memory real time. Okay. So so first what I did actually, I created the measure. So before creating the measure, I actually basically I wanted to know like what are the different tables, because I was getting the tables from data from multiple tables. So I created actually view. So if I can show. So yeah, so this is, I created one view, like I'm getting the data from multiple tables, and here we have all the fields which I wanted to pass to entity store and analyze the data on this these fields. Okay, so and what was the another problem like that I definitely want to discuss. And so measures actually, like you can create in the Dynamics, and you can create the measures in the Power BI desktop also. So suppose this is our Power BI desktop. This is same report that I'm showing in the Visual Studio. So but it's in the Power BI report. So it's in the Power BI desktop. So here, if you go and if you see that here we have the measures that if I click on this is the custom measures I created inside the Power BI desktop. So you can see this is all DAX query. So that's what we Rachit explained, that what is DAX. So I have written a lot of DAX query inside the Power BI desktop. So you can see a lot of calculation I'm doing inside that inside the Power BI desktop. So when I did like I was doing the bigger calculation, like I had like example is like I was using some calculation like this order on time, and I was doing a lot of calculation in the Power BI desktop. So when I was using this big calculation inside the Power BI desktop, so my report was running very slow. It's very extremely slow, and sometimes it was actually timing out, like it's not showing any data. So like and we are frustrated like why it's like doing that way, because I thought if the Microsoft the Power BI has given this capability of adding the measure in the Power BI, so you should be able to handle it. But I think for direct query is better to do the calculation beforehand. So what I did actually in Dynamics, whatever that I am doing in the Power BI desktop, I added the same logic in the computed column inside the Dynamics in the view. So here you can see like I added a lot of logic. So what it is doing actually, if you do the calculate, if you write the logic in the computer column in the view. So actually, before it moves the data to the entity store, it's doing all the calculation, and it's pushing only the calculated data in the entity store database. And then when you do the direct query, it's pretty fast. So that's the reason actually I wrote my logic inside the dynamics, okay, rather than doing it in the Power BI desktop. So the another way you could directly go and create the DAX query here, like a measurement, and then put the DAX query and do the calculation. So that's also you can do that. But doing this with this approach is better approach. OK. So. OK, and OK, what else like? Yeah. So when we actually when we create the view and in Dynamics, so it's better actually if you can run the SQL with the views and verify the data, what data you are getting before you push it into the entity store. So you can analyze the data, whether it's getting proper data, is not throwing any error. So then after that you can so after that, you can actually push the data into the entity store. So how we push the data into the entity store? So in Dynamics, we have, if you go and then in the system administration. So here we have the entity store. So in this entity store, actually, you can see all your aggregate measurement. So it displays all the aggregate measurement. OK, like I built one report for default. So here, so this one I enabled the refresh, OK, automatic refresh enabled, and then I'm refreshing every day per day. OK, so you'll have to enable this entity store integration here. And another thing you need to make sure that you are running the batch job. So there is a batch job to push the data from Dynamics to AXDW entity store. So that's actually batch job name is full reset batch job. So that make sure that batch job is running. If the batch job is not running, then it will not push the data to from Dynamics to AXDW database. So here, if you go. So in this environment actually is errored out for some of the, or maybe we might have during the data export, we might have restarted the server or something. So if you can go and you can start that batch job, and once you start it, so it will here in this entity store, you will see the refresh. So like I can show. So like you can see my data was refreshed on 312 in this. OK, so sometimes like when you refresh the data, you get the error also here, like some because you don't have proper data in your aggregate measurement. So that's why I was saying that you should analyze the data in the view and aggregate measurement before you push the data into the entity store. OK, so this was another learning for me. So like because earlier I was just pushing the data and it was getting stuck and it was throwing some error message. So that's like pushing the data from AXDB to AXDW. OK, and then we design the Power BI desktop. So here we go, and then you can start adding the visuals. So you can add the tabs, you can start adding the visuals, and then you do the connection. So basically how you check the connection. So you'll have to go in here, and here you have the data source setting. So there actually you can see the connection string. So you can see like this is my local dev box. So I'm using the local and I'm connecting with the AXDW database. So this is how you connect the database. OK, and you can then create all the visuals, you can create all those measures, and sometimes you create the custom columns also, like I created the columns for the month, date, and year. So this is another problem. Like what I did in my report, I created the custom columns inside the Power BI desktop. So rather than doing this, is better to use the dimension table. Like we already have the date dimension table. So if you go here, then you see in Dynamics they have given multiple dates table. Like so, this is the date dimension table. So that dimension table, if you is better to use in the aggregate measurement. So once you use this date dimension table in the aggregate measurement, so when you push the data, it actually creates the separate table for the dimension also. So you will get multiple tables. OK, so one is fact table and you get multiple dimension table, and then you can create a star schema inside the Power BI desktop. So that's the best approach to design that Power BI desktop. OK. So this is the problem I'm showing. I have the custom column, I just added the columns, and then I'm doing these filters based on these columns here in the Power BI desktop. OK, so. OK, and another thing is like when you develop the report in the dev environment. So the problem is like you can't see the result. So if I show in my dev box, if I show any of the embedded report, so like I have this. This is the report. So it will not show anything. It's blank. So how do you know that when you develop the report, how the data will look when it is deployed, and when it's deployed, like when the entity store is refreshed? So how you know that? So for that, actually, to see the on-premise data, we have the on-premise gateway in the Power BI gateway. So I have installed the on-premise gateway. I have the on-premise gateway. Sorry, I can't see it here, but I don't know why it's not showing. But so this is the gateway. I installed it in my dev box. OK. So when you install it in your dev box, the on-premise gateway, and then you log in it. So basically, it creates the connection of your dev box in the Power BI service. So I can show that what is the because and then you can publish the report, this Power BI report into the Power BI service. So that's how you can publish the report from dev environment to Power BI service, and you can give access to someone and just to verify how it's looking in the dev environment before moving this report into the test or some other environment. So in Power BI desktop, this is a publish button. When you click on this publish, this report will be published. And once it is published, how it will look, I will show you, because I just published one report. So yeah, so I published this report, I think today only, 110. So this is my the data set for that report, and this is the Power BI report. And this is the option you can share it with someone. So when you go to the data, how you know this report you published from the dev environment? So if you go here and go to the setting. So in setting, you will see the gateway connection. So that's why I said, because I have installed the gateway and the on-premise gateway, and then this gateway is connected. So you can see the gateway connection, and it should be running. It should be in the running state. Then only you can see the data in the Power BI service. And how you know that I'm connected with my local database? So here is the data source credential. So this is the way actually I can publish my report from tab box to Power BI service. OK, so I also published some report some reports from my SIT environment to this Power BI service also. Like you can see this is from SIT, because it will, when you deploy it, it will be same name. So it's hard to differentiate which one is from dev, which one is from SIT. So it's better to put some naming convention, then SIT rename it. So I just renamed it to the SIT. And how do I know this is from SIT? So I will go and check the setting, and this is the data, and then this is the setting from the SIT environment. So I publish some standard report also. So this is like credit and collection. This is the Microsoft standard report. I published it through SIT. So this is another, and then how we publish the report from the tier 2 environment. So we saw that how we publish the report from the tier 1 dev environment. Now let's see how we publish the report from the tier 2 environment. So in tier 2 environment, if you want to use the Power BI service, first thing you should know that you have to create the client ID and the secrets, and then you have to configure it in the Power BI configuration. So you have to configure it here, and you have to enable the Power BI integration, and then you put the application ID and application key. OK, and then the second thing you have to do, you have to go and in the Power BI deploy powerbi.com. And then it will ask you to connect with the Lifecycles LCS. And once it's successful, then you can come back and then you can deploy the report. So I'm just not going to do that. OK, from my DevBox. So I did it from my SIT environment, and that's how we can see it in the Power BI service. So that's the way we deploy the report from the tier 2. So you can deploy from the SIT production and all that you can check in the Power BI service. OK, so OK. So we saw this. Yeah. So now actually let's go to the our Visual Studio again and dev environment. So what we saw, that we created the aggregate measurement. OK, in the aggregate measurement, I used the view. OK, the query views and all, and then I was using this stage entity store. OK. So, and then what I did when then I created the Power BI report, and then I saved as a PBIX file. And then I came to the my dev environment again, and here you can go and add the resource. So when you add the resource, so it will ask to add the file. So you can choose the Power BI file which you have saved somewhere in the local desktop. So you can just give the path and save it. So once it is saved, then everything is will come inside the Dynamics. OK, then this file will go in the AX resource and the Power BI files. OK, and then you can build this package and you can deploy it. So you deploy the package. So then with the regular deployment, it will go to your test environment. OK, so then and then in test environment, once it is deployed, you have to go back again in the entity store. You have to you need to enable the entity store for that particular measurement. You have to run the batch job, the full reset batch job. So once the batch job is done, then you can go to the your Power BI workspace and see the report like how I'm seeing it. OK, so then it will look like this report. And because this is very powerful tool. Power BI desktop is a very powerful tool. You can do a lot of things in the Power BI desktop. So I think this is one of the best reporting tool I've ever worked because it's very easy to work with. So a lot of functions were provided in the Power BI desktop. So you can build the Power BI report. So once you deploy the report, sometimes what happens, like you deploy the report and you don't see anything. It's blank. It's like no data, nothing is there. So how you troubleshoot it? So that's why I added one slide for the troubleshooting. Like like we face like a lot of issues. Like when we what are the things you need to check? First, you need to check whether the entity store is enabled. Second thing, you need to check whether the batch job was run on time or not. OK, and then you need to check that like then still the data is not showing. So sometimes what happens, like we have the deployment issue. So like one example I showed that I was using the custom table, and when we deploying, it was not showing anything, and it was very hard to know like what happened, because that report was working the Power BI service, but it was not working inside the Dynamics, because the Dynamics doesn't support the custom table and the import mode. So then slowly we learned, okay, that we can't use the custom table and we need to use only the direct query tables. Okay, so that's how we built this report. And after that, like even after that, also like we faced one issue, like we had everything correct. Entity batch job was running. We are using direct query. Everything was running, and the report was also running in dev environment. But when we deployed in the SIT, it was failing, and we didn't know like what happened. So basically, what has happened actually, if we go here, so in the Power BI desktop, you can do the edit analytics. So you click on edit analytics. So it will show the report. So in my case, actually, it was showing the report, but it was not showing any data, just all cross, nothing was showing. So the problem was my report was not deployed correctly. So what we did actually, that's another thing. So we made some here actually shows the restore option. When there is some corrupt Power BI file, so it shows the restore. So you have to click the restore and then restore the right file, and then it deploys. Then it shows. So that also, it took some time to find out the problem, like why it was not showing any data. OK, so one more thing I want to know, like here, because now we're in the edit workspace. So here you can add the filters and all. So this is one problem that I found that the users reported this issue. Like if we add any filters or anything here, so and when you save it, this filter, it will be saved for all the users. OK, so when you go as an admin and you create some filters and you save it, so that filter will be saved for all users. So that's the problem with the embedded Power BI. And in the Power BI service, you can save the filter by user. So when you save the filter, it actually retains your filter. When you next time you log in, you will see your own filters. So that was the difference between the Power BI service and the embedded Power. So that's the usability issue. So maybe in future Microsoft might fix it. So yeah, so what else? Yeah, so we covered all these points. And so we covered this accessing the Power BI report from the test environment. And then we covered this Power BI.com configuration, deploy Power BI.com, how to deploy the reports from the tier 2 environment. So let's again maybe share. See if here, if you go to system administration and deploy Power BI.com, because here actually I have all the correct configuration. So if I deploy any report from here, it will go to the Power BI service and I can see it. It's loading. So another thing you need to know, like when you actually deployed the report from DevBox in the Power BI service, and sometimes what happens, like when you deploy the report in Power BI service and it doesn't show any data. So what are things you need to check? So in Power BI service, if you go here in setting and is that this, yeah, manage gateways. So here is the gateway that I created from my dev box. So you need to check whether this gateway is running or not. So if the gateway is not running, then you will not see the data. So in the Power BI service. OK. So this is like if you want to deploy any report from your tier 2 environment to Power BI service, you can go here and you can actually basically you can select and you can deploy. So once you click it, this report will be deployed. Yeah, so deployment successful. So if I go here in my Power BI service, if I go to my workspace, so this is the one, and you can see this is the just now I published, and you can check from where I published. So you can check the data source setting here, and you can schedule the refresh also, how frequently you want to refresh it. So that also you can do it here. So yeah, so this is all covered. Yeah, so during this process, actually, what lessons we learned? Like lesson we learned that embedded Power BI always uses the direct query. So because when I tried to use the custom table with the import mode, it failed. So cannot use the custom table for Power BI desktop because it uses the import mode, all the custom table. So if the logic is complex, like if you're using complex logic, and rather than writing the complex logic on the Power BI desktop in the measure, it's better to write inside the Dynamics. So it can do the calculation before it push the data into the entry store. Choosing the correct reporting model. So sometimes we have the incorrect reporting model, like I showed in one of my example that I was using the column rather than using the dimension. So if you use the dimension and the star schema, so then it's like it's better reporting model and the performance is better. So and then I already shared the deployment issues due to the corrected PBIX file. So okay. So I also like during my learning, like I have gone through like so many documents and I just shared the references here in this page. Yeah. I think that's it from my end.